So hello, my name is John Crossman, and my father was the Reverend Ken Crossman, who was a pastor and civil rights leader. And now my brother and I have a commercial real estate company based in Orlando, Florida. We operate in the 6 states of the southeast U.S. And while we love our business and working on shopping centers and service our clients, we have a great passion through the legacy of our family on education and diversity. Thomas?
And I am Thomas Bolen. I'm a graduate of Florida A&M University. I actually work for Crossman and Company. And John and I are pushing an initiative. And you know what, John, we've been pushing the Crossman & Company HBCU Real Estate Initiative for about a year now. And one of the most frequent questions we get is why is a white Republican pushing this issue?
Yeah, I like the labels, by the way. Well, you know, Thomas, you were with me. Thomas and I were fortunate to have dinner with Mr. Martin Luther King III and his lovely wife, and we had a great time. And when we're at dinner, you remember I actually said that to them. Are you guys wondering why a white Republican Christian conservative is interested? And they interrupted me and said yes. And they were so wonderful and lovely, but wanted to know that. What was the answer to that question? And I told them the following things. There's 3 things that really are reasons why I'm so passionate about this. The first one has to do with my faith, and that I feel as called as a Christian that the issue of justice is something that all Christians should be called to. And whether it's an issue of human trafficking or the sex slave trade business or anywhere we see a level of injustice, we need to work on that. And when we start thinking about the area of real estate's a very real, tangible example of injustice that's happened in our nation that's still a real issue today that can be fixed. So that the first one is that, you know, my faith issue. And then the second thing I'd say is my family. And of course, I mentioned earlier about my dad and all the work that my dad did. And my dad and my mom, through a lot of their ministry, faced death threats for the things that they did to promote racial reconciliation. And thankfully, I don't think we have to do with that any longer. But we do sometimes have to say things that maybe make people uncomfortable. And I'm okay with that. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to hurt people, but we're trying to promote the issue. So there's that. The third thing, and I think this is really maybe the most interesting one, this topic, is why are we so passionate about diversity and helping black colleges? And the answer is, Thomas, is it's good for business. It's really good for business. You know, I believe that there's tremendous talent out there, and right now that talent is not aware of our industry. The example I always give is with the 1955 University of Alabama football team, the best team on the field. And the answer is I don't think they were because the net wasn't wide enough. Right. And so, you know, sometimes people think of diversity as a bad thing, like it's lowering the bar. It's not lowering the bar. Diversity is not lowering the bar. It's widening the net. It's getting the best, most talented, exceptional people applying for the jobs that are available. And as we've done that, we've had better recruits. We've had better students we've mentored go work for other companies. It's made our entire industry, it's raised the tide by working with diversity and made our industry a better place to be.
You know, I remember you spoke at Florida A&M University, and I can actually remember you coming in and speaking about the importance of real estate. And there's 106 historically black colleges and universities. None have a real estate major, minor, or concentration. What is Crossman & Company doing? What's the strategy? What are those steps?
Well, you know, it's funny, Thomas, when we go back in history, when we first figured that out was we got asked by the ICSC Foundation, which is the International Council Shopping Center, to create a real estate scholarship program for 25 universities across the country. And as we began working on that, we noticed that there was no historically black colleges. And that's when we started diving in the issue of there was no scholarships, there was no programs, or anything. And it was very concerning because the reason why that is, and we talked about this with the White House, we called it a gap in the civil rights movement, and I believe that, and it's linked to the Jim Crow laws. It's a very real, painful thing. So we went to ICSC and we said, hey, we want to give 24 scholarships way up based on merit. We want to give 1 based on way because we're trying to create diversity, and the university we chose was Florida A&M. The reason why we chose it was, 1, is a great, outstanding university, and 2, it's just a mile away from FSU, which is where I went. So we knew we could build a relationship there. And so for our viewers to know this, I guest lectured in 2010, and I challenged the students. I said, I've got the scholarship for you in real estate. I want you students to create a real estate program and start by creating a real estate club. And one student who was a freshman stood up and followed with me and said, I want to start a real estate club. And that student was Thomas Bolen. That was you. You were that guy. And then you received that scholarship.
That's
too.
right.
So you got that scholarship, which helped
The
you.
first diversity scholarship
Right.
at FAMU.
Right. So you started the club, and then you and I began working together on that, and then you created the real estate club, and then you handed it off to another student, and they've now handed it off. The club, 5 years later, is still in existence and helping. And on top of that, FAMU now has a real estate class. They're about to have a second real estate class.
That's right.
Right? And then on top of that, the next thing we did is we've always had a strong relationship with Bethune-Cookman University, which is another large HBCU in Daytona Beach. And the next thing we did there is we launched a real estate club there, which you did. And you had 45 students in your first class, which is great. And now this fall, you're having the first ever real estate class there. So we went from a year ago and having none of the black colleges in America involved. Now we have 2, and we're making progress.
That's right.
So it's pretty
right.
cool.
For our viewers that are looking at this video, wanting to know how they can help, how they can be impactful, how can they make a difference when you talk about racial reconciliation and helping end racism, how can they help?
Well, let me, I'll tell you what, when I answer that 1 second, the first thing I want to say is let's talk about why they should help. And then let's talk about how they can
Okay.
help. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, so the first thing is people need to know that when you're when you're watching the news and you see terrible things happen in the different communities, it's a good reason, good process to say, how is this happening? What's caused this? And so when we think about real estate, has a role in that because real estate was used to control and deny people the right to vote. It's when it wasn't taught, people didn't learn about having equity in homes and building wealth. Not it being in a position where they're paying taxes, and that can cause dysfunctional relationships with law enforcement. So when we get into educating real estate and increasing home ownership in minority communities, the flow of that for generations is awesome because it creates more stable communities, paying taxes, better relationship with law enforcement, better passion about caring about communities, tends to have more active politically. So these are important steps that these real estate programs can achieve. They weren't offered before, and now they are. So there's that. I would say from people watching this video, there's little things and big things they could do. The little things they could do is they could help contribute financially to some of the things we contribute financially, not to us, but the things we're giving to. We're endowing the first ever real estate scholarship at FAMU.
That's right.
We're endowing the first real estate scholarship at Bethune-Cookman. We'd love for people to join us, either donate to our scholarship or endow their own, right? So that's a little simple thing. But I think the bigger thing would be is, hey, endow a real estate scholarship at the historic black college in their community. But the bigger thing is to sit back as a business leader and pray about your resources, about your given God's skills He's given you, and the ability, the platform He's given you, wherever that is, and maybe using that skill set to help and with racial reconciliation. So that could be in IT, that could be in a small retail business, it could be in a law firm, whatever it is, but it's taking a proactive step. And I think that one of the things I describe, what you and I are doing together, I call it pioneer leadership, right? You know, we've done this and there's no one else have done it. And sometimes that can be scary, but it's been such a blessing, hasn't it?
It has been.
We've really jumped out there and we've got more good things coming.
And racial reconciliation, what's so powerful about this is you couldn't do this by yourself, and I couldn't do it, and we've been so successful because we're doing this together.
Right.
How important is racial reconciliation with an issue such as this?
Well, it's so crucial. And back to the Mr. King interview, and again, you were there, you were sitting beside me. But remember he said to me, he said, John, he goes, we may only agree on 3 or 4 issues. Let's find out what those 3 or 4 issues are.
That's right.
And I said to him, I disagree,
right.
Mr. King. I believe we agree on 90% of issues.
Right.
And we really do. And I think the truth of the matter is we do as a society really do agree on issues. We just got to find out what's the best plan to address them. And I think the other thing I'd say, Thomas, is that, and I think you and I are good examples, we're not going to wait around for other groups of people to figure it out. When we find a way we can do something, we're going to do it. And one thing I want to mention one thing I want you to mention is that think about ULI, ICSC, NAIOP, CSAM. These are 4 of the largest real estate trade organizations in the United States. All of them, 4 for 4, have backed up what we're doing.
That's right.
They're providing free resources to
free membership.
students at black colleges across the country. Our website as a company has free resources to actually any student, any university, and so we provide that. So there's that. You recently won the Fiala Fellowship.
The Fiala Fellowship, that's right.
And so talk about what that is and what you're going to be doing with that.
Sure, and so the International Council of Shopping Centers is one of the largest trade organizations in our industry. 60,000 plus real estate professionals, and you can't talk about real estate education, you can't push an issue such as this without mentioning the International Council of Shopping Centers, because one of their core goals is to push education and to also push community and good things. And so with the Fiala Fellowship, my goal is to actually increase student membership at HBCUs with the International Council of Shopping Centers. And so they've given me a budget. I'm going to visit 8 HBCUs. Throughout the course of a year, I'll sit down with leadership and push the resources that they have. I'm also focusing on the first HBCU to actually attend Recon, and we were just at Recon. That's in Vegas. One of the largest real estate conferences is held in Vegas. I want to see an HBCU there next year. And so, again, how is this impactful? The industry is saying this is an issue. We want diversity, and this is how we're able to do it, by racial reconciliation.
So it's funny, that component goes to jobs, and the bigger component goes to just a basic understanding of housing and things like that. So there's a lot that pulls and comes out of that.
Right.
So it's good stuff. Last thing for you and I just to mention here real quick, I think it's worth mentioning, is that we've had some pretty cool and sometimes weird experiences together. You know, we had an experience where you and I were together at the Congressional Black Caucus, and I was one of the only white people in the room, and I definitely was probably the only Republican in the room. And then we've had many issues where you've been the only African-American man in the room. And we've been in rooms with Republicans, we've been in rooms with Democrats, we've been in rooms with Christians, we've been in rooms with business leaders. And wouldn't you agree with me that overwhelmingly, the vast majority, everybody, has been really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
We've been blessed with very strong, kind, generous feedback and support. It's sort of funny. I mean, there's little negative naysayers here or there, but overwhelmingly, regardless of political affiliation or race or whatever, they've been supportive of what we're doing. And I say this is like, I feel like our nation's ready for this next step. It really feels like it. I think they don't always know what to do, but there's a listening voice of wanting to hear truth and seek steps. And, you know, we need pulpits, we need pastors preaching. We always need that. Another component that is business leaders in those congregations hearing that word, feeling their heart, and going beyond just agreeing with the pastor Sunday morning, but going into their work and saying we're going to make a difference. And sometimes you and I talk about this, it's scary. And I say it's scary like, well, they don't know who to call. They don't know how to make that step. You know, the first time they may reach out to a historically black college or reach into a black community or reach into an African-American chamber or whatever, it's going outside their element.
That's right.
But hey, you need to take that step. Give it a shot.
And since the beginning, it's been scary.
Yeah.
You spoke in front of 500, 600 students. You said, I was the only one to follow up. And what's so funny is Miss Fiala asked a question. She stated, why do you think you're the only one to follow up? And I told her, I believe it was fear. Coming into an HBCU, saying, start a real estate program, no real estate education, the resources, actually taking that step to do it.
The other students were afraid.
Right.
They were afraid.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fear. It's fear. It's fear. And so since the beginning, starting the club, reaching back out to you, and then what we're doing, I mean, this issue, it's fear. It's scary. It's scary. But
for me, you know, having the dad I had who, you know, looked down death threats, you know, it doesn't seem scary to me because that seems scary. So that was my background. Why aren't you scared? What's God put in your heart that's overcome any little fear or concern to just go for it?
Oh man, not being afraid to take a shot. I think you asked me a question when I was interviewing about the job, and I said some people have a backup plan. And if they don't take the initiative or if it doesn't work out, they have something to fall back on. I treat this situation like I don't have anything to fall back on. I'm here, and this is an issue that we need to push, and we need to make it happen. And we're the guys for the job.
Right.
And so, you know, another thing, faith, religion, you know, I mean, we can look at biblical stories. We have God on our side, and we believe that this is a gift that God has blessed us with, and we're going to push it.
I believe that if you and I did not do this, it would be immoral. I really believe that, because I believe like God's given us the gifting and the timing and the platform and all the things we don't know how to do, he fills it in, right? Because there's a lot we don't have to do. But if we didn't do it, be immoral. I feel deeply called to do this. And I believe that what we're doing with real estate and education, it has the ability, I'll say beyond the ability, it will make a significant impact nationally. If you're writing the story of racism and slavery and Jim Crow laws and racial tension in America, you're writing that book, several chapters will be about real estate, because that's where it came from, like the connection. When we write the racial reconciling, the healing, the getting people together, the justice book, I think that has to have several chapters in it about real estate. And that's where you and I come in.
And look at how much has happened. We took a shot, didn't expect it to happen. It's nothing but God.
Yeah.
It's nothing but God. We say all the time, where we are right now, we figured we would be 5 years in advance when we first started. And so it's truly God. I mean, there's things that have happened. I mean, from meeting President Obama, sitting at a table with Dr. Martin Luther King III, Congressman Kareem Brown, Governor Scott endorsing our plan.
Governor Bush.
Governor Bush. I mean, that's right. It's nothing but God.
Yeah.
It's truly God. It's truly God. So
anyway, well, thanks, man. We'll keep doing this. We'll keep doing this. And we do want to say, I'm sorry, you saw us right there?
Well, any last words?
My last words is I would just encourage people to have courage.
That's right.
We need business leaders in our community across the country to take steps out to say, hey, this is an issue. Stop watching the TV and seeing these terrible things happening and looking at it and going, that's terrible. We've got to take a step and say, hey, can that happen in my community? What can we do now to help prevent that happening in the community?
Right.
And what steps can we proactively take to work together? And the only last thing I want to say, Stu, is I do want to thank Dr. Joel Hunter and his team for allowing us to be here to film this video. And we're going to have our contact information on the end of this. And if anybody has any questions or comments or advice on ways we can get better or we can be helpful on what we're doing, look, we're just two business guys trying to make a difference.
Trying to change the world.
Trying to change the world.
Trying to change the world.
So whatever else resource we get, we're appreciative of that. So thank you. Thanks, Thomas.